Welcome to Lifestyle Solopreneur, the community for entrepreneurs who put lifestyle first. Join your host Flavia Barris as she interviews successful lifestyle solopreneurs and shares ideas to help you find the perfect balance between lifestyle, business, and self. Flavia is an attorney, marketing expert, and founder of several online academies. She's been featured in major media including BBC World News, The Wall Street Journal, The New York Post, ESPN Television, and more. Join us for this episode of Lifestyle Solopreneur. Hey, Lifestyle Solopreneurs. Today we have the absolute pleasure of speaking with Ruksana Hussain. She's an award-winning journalist, magazine editor, and featured writer with 20 years of experience. She's the founder and publisher of Traveler and Tourist Digital Magazine and a recipient of the inaugural 2020 Richard S. Holden Diversity Fellowship from the American Copy Editor Society. This year, she won an honorable mention in the National American Travel Journalists Association in the luxury travel category and won in 3 categories at the Southern California Los Angeles Press Club Awards last year. Born in India, raised in Oman, and now calling Los Angeles her home, she has created a successful solopreneur business without any social or formal networks and now teaches others how to do the same in creating the life opportunities they want for themselves. Her work is geared toward women and especially toward women of color. Welcome to the show, Ruksana.
Thank you so much for having me here. Appreciate the lovely introduction.
Yes, no, it's great to have you. So tell us a little bit about your solopreneur journey and how you came to be where you are today and doing what you're doing today.
Of course. So I was, as you mentioned in my introduction, born in India, raised in Oman for a little while, spent my formative years there. Did my school there, came back to India again for university and work before I married and moved to the US. Now, I moved to the US in 2006, and I moved on what was called a dependent or spousal visa, which meant that I couldn't work legally in the country. So here I was, a graduate with prior work experience, but I simply couldn't, because of the laws here at the time, work in a legal fashion. So I ended up volunteering a lot of my time. And a lot of the feedback I received, and I tell people all the time, there are cues in your environment you kind of need to hone in on. But I would hear from folks all the time, if we could hire you, we would in the blink of an eye, but we just can't because you don't have the legal authority for us to do that. Well, great. In 2008, I did receive my legal papers to work in the United States. Unfortunately, that was the year that we had the recession hit us and nobody was hiring. So I actually sort of jumped into solopreneur lifestyle by the circumstances that I was placed in at the time. I realized corporate work wasn't really going to happen. So I tried many things. I did childcare. I worked part-time through a staffing agency. I did some freelance writing. I even owned like a crafts business for about 5 years, selling handicrafts made by women in India. And this was all in the process of trying to figure out my path. But through it all, writing is something that stuck. I've always enjoyed working with words. Even in India, my work was in editorial communications. And then I moved here. The voluntary work that I was doing was also in writing. And so it just ended up that I chose to stick with the writing and left everything else behind. And that has served me well. So here I am. I now work as a journalist. I have my magazine that I publish. I'm the editor with another magazine. I do editing, write a different outlets, so it focus on networking and building relationships and sort of building my professional network from there.
That's great. And then if you were to run into someone who was, let's say, a college student or just graduating, and they said, I want to be you. I want to write for a living. I want to have that solopreneur, maybe even geographic nomadic lifestyle where I can be based anywhere because my work can all be done online. What would you tell them as their next step? I mean, they're just coming right out of education, right out of university, and they're ready to start a writing career.
So one question I ask myself, and this is irrespective of writing or any other professional decisions I have to take, and I share this with everyone I know, and I always ask myself, how does this opportunity improve upon the overall quality of my life experiences? And this might seem like a very broad question, but it's really making you zone in on, one, is this an opportunity that is one of quality? I can do 10 different things that might not make any difference to my profession and my professional decisions. So how is this a qualitative decision? And secondly, how does it affect my overall life experiences, not just professional or personal, but overall? And I think that helps people make decisions in a more strategic manner. So I would definitely say when you get out of college, and it's not easy to know what you want right out of it. And for that, I sometimes tell folks, you might have to reverse engineer that a little bit and ask yourself, what is it that I don't want? And a lot of times we have a lot more clarity on what we don't want in a certain opportunity than what we do. So that's definitely something I tell folks to ask themselves and focus on when they're trying to do that.
And then if you wanted to tell that person, hey, look, I know you want to be a writer, and here's what being a writer looks like. At least here's how it looks like for me. Give that person just an average week in the life of. What does 1 week of being a professional writer look like for you?
Okay, so in my case, I am a features generalist. And what that means is I write across different industries and topics. There are a lot of folks that are specialists in their area. So you will see that they only write about finance or only write about investing in the stock market or holistic health. In my case, I write about a couple of different subjects. So my week, it's very varied. Every day is different. And that's something I like about what I do is the variety. I also get to learn about so many new things. So on the daily basis, I am checking email, doing interviews for sources, for stories, interviewing them to include them in stories, doing my research online, trying to get new pitches out to editors. And then I work with a lot of writers as well. So I'm getting in pitches from writers and PR professionals. So my week is really, it depends on what's going on. At this time, we obviously don't have events, but when things were pre-pandemic, there was also that added aspect of, okay, I do have events to cover during the day, and I have to add that to my schedule. So yes, a lot of writing, researching, talking to people, working with words all the time.
And so someone who wants to be a writer shouldn't picture themselves just with a laptop in a coffee shop, writing. I mean, it sounds like
No.
it's quite social. There's a lot of coordination and maybe even project management skills involved. And it's for somebody who is also maybe a little bit of a salesperson. I mean, I'm guessing that you have to pitch yourself to employers who want to hire you as a freelance writer or perhaps even an employed writer that writes for them regularly. But I mean, there is an element of sales as well, right?
Absolutely, there is. And I think a lot of people forget that because when you see pictures of people who are freelance writers, you typically see exactly what you described, which is someone sitting in a coffee shop working on their laptop. But that's only a fraction of the work. That is doing the actual work. Yes, of course. But there's so much that happens behind the scenes. As you mentioned, project management, sales for sure. You're constantly looking for new clients, new outlets, new editors you can work with, new publishers. You're constantly looking for sources. Who are the experts that you can share in your stories? You always want someone that you can lean into for information on any subject that you're writing about. So you want to have those experts handy. And we're also talking about the administrative side of things. You are the business owner at the end of the day. So you're the one doing all the paperwork. You're making sure the money comes in. You're making sure the invoices go out. Is everything paid on time? And I have to warn you, especially in the US, if you are in the media publishing industry, a very big problem is rampant. And this is rampant. There is so many cases of a non-payment and late payments of checks. So it's unfortunate. And sometimes it's even the really big media publishing houses. So you kind of have to accommodate for the time you're going to need to actually chase those checks. So it's up to you. You can choose to create a professional lifestyle where that is not something you do. I'm in a position now where that is something I don't do at all. But starting out, not knowing that was an issue in the industry, I definitely had my experiences with that. So yes, there's all of these other components to being a freelance writer.
And when you said you're no longer needing to chase down payments, I'm assuming, does that mean that you've built up a team of some kind that handles administrative tasks for you?
No, not on the administrative side. I do have a team that helps me with a few other things that I delegate work to. And I meant that in the sense of I have chosen not to work with such publications and clients. So when I have done my research, asked around, or even had an experience previously where this was a problem, payment or non-payment, delayed payment was a problem, I've chosen not to work with those clients. And now I do the money talk, which is a very important aspect. I do the money talk upfront to see if this is going to be an opportunity that's worth my time and effort.
That makes sense. So I call that like you sort of are pruning the list of clients, to
Absolutely.
to sort of decide who you want to work with and who you don't. And people who pay their accounts payable, I mean, that really should be a factor, especially for a solopreneur or freelancer that really depends on prompt payment in order to keep all the gears turning, right?
Absolutely. I agree.
And then for your business, it seems like it's very much could be feast or famine or ebb and flow. I mean, it could be the kind of business where you're sometimes very busy, sometimes not as busy. Or have you found a way to keep the work more of a constant flow? And what's your secret for that?
I'm currently in a place where, yes, I do have work that is in constant flow. I've previously, starting out, been in that place where it was ebb and flow, not knowing when the next payment's coming in or which clients have got work from this month. And I realized a lot of that has to do with the freelance world and the way you go about pitching stories. I personally do not like pitching stories for the sole purpose that when you're pitching one story at a time. And that story might never see the light of day. If nobody wants it, if the editors you work with don't want it, you have new publications you try to pitch and they don't want it, then it's an idea that never really comes to life. In my case, what I have chosen to do for structuring my business is reaching out to editors, making a connection. I introduce myself. I say, this is my work. These are my credits. These are my bylines. If you'd like to work with me, please let me know. And so I've gone more the introductions route. And what that has done for me is, like I said, upfront, I'm able to ask them, what are your requirements? Let's do the money talk right now. Let's see if you are paying what I would like. Do I want to work for what you're willing to give me? What is your past record on payments? What are your deliverables? What are your turn times? And then I make a decision based on that. So I've chosen to create this working relationship where I do an introduction and we work from there and we build a sustained relationship over a period of time rather than doing a one-time pitch and a one-time byline in a publication that I might never, ever be able to work with again, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And then just to keep all of this organized and not forget, hey, I promised them I would write them that article, and to keep everything organized in a project management sense, walk us through your favorite tech stack or even some maybe technology or apps you've used in the past that you no longer use but still believe in. And then what you recommend for somebody who wants to become a solopreneur author and writer for their tech stack, something they can consider as a way to stay organized and maybe automate some tasks.
I primarily actually use Excel. I use a shared Excel document with my two assistants. I have a graphic designer who works with me on all of my graphic requests, and I have an editorial assistant who works with me on my research and any other requests on the editorial side of things. I have a calendar that's on Excel. I coordinate that with my Google Calendar. I pretty much set myself reminders and notes on everything. I think the one thing that I absolutely love about Gmail that has helped coordinate a lot of my schedule is using Streak and snoozing the emails for when I want them to pop up. And I think that has been very helpful in organizing my inbox because I'm one of those people that likes a zero email inbox at the end of my working day. I am obsessed with that. It's very important for me to function. I need to know that everything has been addressed when I shut shop at 5 p.m. every evening. So that's something that I say, if you haven't already used or don't have some app that you're using to help you with organizing your emails, definitely try to look into that. But for me, it's Gmail that I use, and I use Streak.
I love it. So that's pretty much keeping it simple. I mean, using an Excel spreadsheet.
Very simple, very effective. Yeah.
Very simple, very effective. And sometimes people overcomplicate things and they get in their own way. So I love that you found a system that works. And again, people were writers and doing business before there were personal computers. I mean, we humans can do business without the fancy gadgets and the fancy technology and software, but sometimes others have explored the really all the bells and whistles and whatever's the latest and greatest as far as project management software, and they love it too. So I mean, really it depends on what you want out of your tech stack and what works for you and what works for your team. And I love that you've stuck with tried and true and the simple method. It seems to really work for you. What about the 5 p.m. you mentioned? Are you pretty strict on finishing your day at 5 p.m. and being off the computer? And how do you spend time outside of work to really keep your life balanced?
So I definitely do have a broad framework of a schedule that I try to work within. I typically start my day at around 10 as far as work is concerned. I try my best not to have anything prior to that. And that's just the lifestyle I've created for myself, that with the clients and the projects I have, it's after 10 a.m. And I definitely try to complete everything by 5 p.m. as far as work is concerned. Again, if there's a deadline or there's urgent client meetings that have to take place after that time, then I'm obviously open to that. But on a regular scheduled day, it's a 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.-ish workload. And I typically take some time off in the afternoon to do some reading and such. So I definitely put in a couple of minutes between different projects or clients for myself to sort of, I would say, just de-zone and come back again to work on the next bit. So I have a lot of those little breaks playing into my schedule. Outside of work, I definitely make sure that I head out of the apartment every day. It's either for a walk in the morning or in the evening, but we try to step out, my husband and I, for a little walk. Definitely spend a lot of times out on the weekends. I do a lot of reading and definitely a lot of Netflix shows happening at this time.
You got to love Netflix. I mean, we all need downtime, and there's so many good shows these days. I mean, I'll throw a little endorsement for one show that I don't know if it's even well known yet or not, and it's actually only on HBO Max. So it's on a very specific channel, and I don't even know if it's on HBO Go or any of the other HBOs, but it is on HBO Max for anyone who likes sci-fi and kind of survival type movies. And you know that TV series Lost from a long time ago, if you kind of like the mystery in those kinds of shows, it's called Raised by Wolves. And
Okay.
It has nothing to do with wolves as an animal, but most of it takes place on another planet. And there are some Ridley Scott directed a couple of the episodes, who's the director of Alien. And I mean, the sci-fi in it's true sci-fi. It's a little out there, but it's fantastic. What's one show that you've been watching that you've really enjoyed that we can endorse?
Oh my gosh. We've currently been watching The Sinner, which is a murder mystery thriller type of show. It's got about 3 seasons, but we actually talking about sort of sci-fi, not exactly. We just got done watching The Expanse, and I think that's on Netflix, if I'm not wrong, or Prime, I forget. But that was one of those life in outer space, people hopping from planet to planet kind of show. And that was great to watch too. But I think the shows are a great outlet for, just relaxing at the end of a day of having worked, looking at a laptop and working with words and being really detailed. It's nice to watch some of these shows that allow you to sort of escape for a little bit.
And great for creativity too. Do you do any writing that is in the fiction category, or is it mostly nonfiction?
Mostly nonfiction.
And, I think we all need an escape. And some people are really down on things like television, like, oh, get rid of your TV. It's evil. And, you don't need that. And to some degree, it's true, because we don't want to get to the point where we're watching too much TV or become addicted to that as your sole way to relax and have downtime. But hey, I love a good TV show. So you will never see me recommending that people just get rid of their TVs altogether. I think there is a little escape there that is nice and relaxes the brain, and reading too. So I haven't given up reading. It's not like I only watch TV, but I am all for a good show. So if anybody wants to write into the podcast, lifestylesolopreneur.com, if you've seen a great, I love sci-fi and action movies, things like that, feel free to send me a suggestion and I could always plug it on the show at some point. So Ruksana, I have a question for you. Where do you see your business in 5 years? Have you reached a point where you want to see it stay exactly as it is now into the future? Or do you have any goals for changing your business in some way?
I definitely look at it as expanding upon what I've built so far. I'm definitely in a good place as far as the clients and projects I'm working on and working with. So I definitely want to continue doing more editing and writing for high-end clients, more journalistic work published in more outlets for sure. And they don't have to be national outlets. I'm just happy to do work in any industry and subject that I'm learning a lot more, and I'm able to share those stories as well. I definitely am looking at expanding products and services related to my travel magazine that will be happening through the year. And I am currently in the process of putting together a course teaching others, but especially women of color, sort of the framework that I followed, which was, making the introductions, networking, connecting from there on, and building and maintaining sustained relationships over time. So I've got those on my plate for now.
And is that course available currently, or is that in the future?
It will be in the next 3 months for sure. It should have already launched the first quarter of the year, but we've had some delays on that. But hopefully in the next quarter, it should be out.
Is there a place where someone can go now to get on either a wait list or to just generally follow you? Where would they go to connect?
Yes, on the wait list, you can go onto RuksanaWrites.com and just leave me a message there or subscribe to my newsletter there, and you'll know when the course is out. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can search me by name, Ruksana Hussain, and I usually share all of my professional pursuits on there.
And Ruksana is Ruksana, last name Hussain. And LinkedIn would be a great place to connect with Ruksana, as well as at her website, RuksanaWrites.com. So that's RuksanaWrites.com. And definitely, especially aspiring writers who want your exact lifestyle should reach out to you. I have a question. I know that you do this full time. This is your gig, but for somebody that wanted to be a part-time professional writer, is that feasible? Is that doable? Do you know any writers that do this part-time? Or is it something that you really have to commit to full-time to find success?
You can definitely do it part-time. And a lot of writers do start out that way. And then depending on, if they would like to continue to hold on to their jobs or their primary profession and do this on the side, or then if they want to give that up and do this entirely as a full-time thing, it's totally up to them. But I definitely know folks that do this as a part-time gig.
Outstanding. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. I've learned a lot about what the life of a professional writer looks like day to day, week to week, and just a lot of the skills that are involved. If somebody now came to me and said, hey, I think what I want to do is be a professional writer. That's my passion. That's what I want to see myself doing day to day. I would tell them, go look up the episode with Ruksana Hussain on Lifestyle Solopreneur podcast, because she will give you a really good lay of the land and just tell it like it is, and give some great advice. Plus, she has a course you can take to learn how to become a professional writer. So that is definitely what I will do when I run into someone who aspires to be you.
Thank you so much. That sounds amazing. I appreciate it.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, and if you leave a review on iTunes, I promise I will read every single review. If you know someone who makes a full-time living from part-time work, and maybe this is you, please visit lifestylesolopreneur.com to nominate a guest or to nominate yourself. Because remember this, money doesn't buy happiness, but money in the hands of a happy person, there is no greater tool.
Today's episode was brought to you by the Get Shift Done program. It's a lifestyle-changing online class to help you define your business and lifestyle ambitions and to set goals in a way you've never experienced before. This class will 10x your daily productivity with methods that will blow your mind. And if you use a coupon code podcast, the class tuition is 99% off. Visit GetShiftDone.com to enroll today.